Are you ready to double your real estate sales and grow your business like never before? Then you're in the right place. Welcome to Real Estate Matters, hosted by Matt Curtis, leader of the #1 real estate team in Alabama for the last 6 years. With over 8,000 homes sold and more than 4,000 five-star reviews, Matt's proven strategies speak for themselves. Ready to double your sales with expert strategies? Let's dive in. This is Real Estate Matters. Let's get started.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Matters podcast. I'm your host, Clark Dunn, here with Matt Curtis and Matt Curtis Real Estate.
Talking about why a lot of agents fail. It's a thing that if you're getting into real estate, you need to look at. If you're in real estate, you need to look at as well to ensure that you're not part of one of the statistics.
Yeah, and so I think some of the most staggering statistics is the amount of agents that get out of real estate and the amount of agents that have sold homes in the last year.
Yeah, it's really staggering. 87% of agents get out of the business in the first 5 years. Which is a stat in of itself. But then the other one is really, really concerning. 70% of agents didn't even do a single transaction, last year. And so if you're a consumer, do you want to go have somebody operate on you that didn't even do, an operation last year? And so, it's really a liability and risk for the industry. Throwing all these real estate agents out on consumers, not having the experience and the training and the support. And so that's one of the things that we try to fix with our team.
Yeah, and I talk a little bit about that mindset because we talked a little bit about it off air, but that W-2 mindset when you see a new real estate agent maybe coming in that maybe has the eagerness and the passion to do it, but then the realization hits of what their quote unquote 9 to 5 is.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge. We train kids to, obey the rules, show up at time, leave on time. And then, you're used to that W-2. And so hey, I worked 8 to 5. I'm getting paid, X amount of money per hours that I work today. And it's different in real estate. It's different in owning a business. What you're working on today, you're not going to see an immediate gratification from it. It might be, we have some clients that an agent's been working with for 2 or 3 years before, it comes to fruition. Some of them, it's 1 day, it's a month, it's 6 months, but you've really got to retrain yourself to say, all right, it's okay that I'm not seeing instant gratification. I'm building something that's going to snowball. It's kind of like that flywheel that we've talked about before. Flywheel is super hard to turn the first time, but it starts to gain momentum each and every time that you go around. And that's the same thing with your real estate career. It's not, hey, we're going 100 miles an hour on your first turn. It's you're building a pipeline, you're building something. You got to lay that foundation. You've got to make the call, show up for training, and it's going to pay off later on. And if you can't get over that mindset and that concept, unfortunately you're not going to be successful in real estate.
Yeah, and I think another analogy that we've used in some podcasts a little bit is the airplane analogy.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that and how that kind of applies to that, building that momentum and kind of getting the groundwork set so that once you get up in the air, you're more likely to be successful.
Yeah, we were talking off air just a second ago about agents being successful, not being successful, and we used to do a 3 interview process to just try to get it right, make sure we're hiring the right agents. And what we found was sometimes the agents that we thought were going to be amazing rock stars were they never came to training, and they never picked up the phone. You can't I don't know how you expect to be successful in a business. You can have all the leads and all the training and all the support, but if you're not going to go to the training and you're not going to pick up the phone and call the leads, you're not going to be successful. And then we'd have agents that were I just don't know if they're going to be a good fit, but we'll give them a chance. And they sometimes become the best real estate agents out there. And so a lot of them, it just comes down to them believing in this analogy that I tell them about. It's success is really like an airplane. If you look at the amount of consumption of energy of fuel from an airplane, a lot of it comes at the takeoff. And so it's the same thing for a real estate agent. You're gonna spend all this time getting your airplane up in the air, all this fuel, all this energy, and you're not going to get paid as much for it as you are later on once you're in the air. But that's what it takes. You've gotta, like any new business, real estate or anything, you're gonna spend a lot of the time, you're gonna spend a lot of time learning, you're gonna spend a lot of time building that pipeline of leads and clients that you're talking to. And then over time, your airplane's going to be up in the air and it's going to be easier.
Mm.
You already know how to write a contract. You already know basic selling skills. You already know how to use a CRM, and you have all these folks that you've talked to for the last 12 months. And so it gets a whole lot easier. And so that's why we see, agents that, may ultimately sell 80 homes a year by year 3, but year 1, it might be 20 or 30. Year 2, it might be 40 or 50, and then they go up to 80. Or, ultimately they may sell 30 homes in 3 years, and it's maybe 10 the first year and 20, but it compounds and builds over time.
Yeah, I mean, and I think it is such a, it's a heavy lift to get started in something like this and into a career like this. But like you said, after you get the practices down, you get the routine down, y'all have built an infrastructure of support team too that allows the real estate agents to do what they love to do. And so once you kind of figure out how all these moving parts work together, it allows the real estate agent to be successful if they want to be.
Yeah. It's kind of like the story of Acres of Diamonds. There's basically this guy or this couple or whatever, they wanted to go out and and mine for diamonds. So he traveled all around the world trying to find the diamonds, and ultimately what they found was they sold their plot of land to be able to buy like the equipment to go do all these things. And they actually the land that they sold them was the biggest diamond find in history. And that's what agents do is they're like, try this, they try that, versus just honing in on, the training that they have, the leads that they have. It's, so many agents, they'll quit right before they strike gold. And I can see it. I'm like, you've built this pipeline, it's about to just blow up, but then they quit too early. And the advice I give a lot of people is like, when you're in that kind of decision, like, hey, do I continue doing this? Do I not? There's a great book out there called The Dip by Seth Godin. What you have to figure out is, are you on a dip? A dip is basically, it's come down, it's about to go right back up. It's about to you're about to explode. And unfortunately, that's where a lot of new agents, they quit. It's like they put in a lot of work, and if they would just go a little bit harder, they'd see the success. Um, but on the other side is, are you on a cul-de-sac? If you go on a cul-de-sac on a street, it's a dead end. And so those are the questions that you need to ask. Some things are worth quitting. Um, if I were to try to go to medical school, I get really weak and it's in sick stomach, just thinking about blood or anything like that. I would not be a good surgeon. That would be a cul-de-sac for me. But unfortunately, a lot of agents treat their career like a cul-de-sac versus the dip that they're in.
Yeah, well, I mean, I appreciate you being here. I think, this conversation, many of our conversations are, applicable for somebody that's in real estate, that's in a career, that's wanting to better themselves and learn more and kind of just and see where their career could take them. We'll be sure to have everything in the episode notes for anyone that's listening.
Awesome.
That's a wrap for this episode of Real Estate Matters, helping you double your sales and build a thriving business. But real success is about impact. That's why Matt's team has built over 140 homes for families in Central America, changing lives beyond real estate. Loved what you heard? Subscribe, leave a review, and share this episode with a fellow agent. For more expert insights, visit mattcurtisrealestate.com or find us on social media at Matt Curtis Real Estate. See you next time on Real Estate Matters.